Good afternoon and welcome back. I'm Marcus Peter. I'm blessed to be joined by my friend Dr. Gregory Popcak, founder of CatholicHOM. Together with his bride Lisa, he's the author of over 20 popular books, host of More to Life, heard each day at 10 a.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio. Greg and Lisa are also the founders of the Catholic HOM, Households on Mission, HOM app, that provides couples and parents with the coaching and resources they need to build strong domestic churches. Greg, so great to speak with you again. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Marcus.
So, when people talk about couples from a secular perspective, we often hear the term, well, are you guys compatible for each other? This new study that's come out of the Journal of Research and Personality seems to point out that compatibility in a lot of factors can probably be overrated. So share with us, what have we discovered?
Yeah, it's a really funny thing. So researchers looked at couples, 451 couples who'd been married an average of 28 years, to see what did they actually have in common. And it turns out that of 6 personality traits that they looked across, the couples only matched for 2 of them. And those had to do with moral values and curiosity. The other traits that they looked at, emotional sensitivity, cooperativeness, conscientiousness, and social boldness, the couples they scored 0 in terms of how compatible they were in those other areas. So the most important areas of connection for these long-term couples were, again, moral values and curiosity. We can unpack that a bit more. But that was a surprising finding because, these couples didn't necessarily agree on, how to do the dishes or what even was necessarily more important, or how to do the degree to which they should cooperate, right? Or the importance of social relationships. But as long as they had these commonalities with regard to moral values and curiosity, they were likely to be happy in a long-term relationship.
In that light, then, just knowing that, before we unpack that a little more, I want to invite your wisdom and your thought, and with all the work that you and Lisa do, this language of secular compatibility that's kind of strewn across the board, where's it coming from, and is it good for Catholics to think in that way?
It's interesting. It's sort of an ancient idea of friendship. The Romans wrote that to be a friend, you had to find somebody who was exactly like you, that otherwise they wouldn't get you. And the Christian idea of friendship actually was rooted in the love of Christ. We all love Christ, so we can connect in that way. And so I think it's the natural assumption that in order for me to have a good relationship with someone, I have to be able to check the boxes on every single one of their interests, every single one of their passions, and be equally of equal thought in all of those areas. But again, it turns out that the reality is quite different. That we can get along with people who are very different from us, as long as we share sort of a moral worldview and a sense of curiosity. I do want to speak to that idea of curiosity, though, because that's a word that we don't often think about in these terms, but it's directly connected to empathy. Because curiosity is the opposite of condemnation. Mm-hmm. When I encounter a difference in somebody, whether that's a difference in interest or a difference in their values or a difference in their political ideology or the way they think, in order for my natural reaction to that is to see that difference as a threat, and so I condemn it. I don't relate to that. I don't understand it. It's got to be bad. Whereas if I can approach it with curiosity, I don't have to accept it as good or true or beautiful even. I'm just accepting that you see it that way. And I'm interested in learning more about it from your perspective because I respect you. And how that translates into healthy marriages, the Gottmans, who are sort of the premier marriage researchers in the world at this point, talk about what they call accepting influence. And there's a saying among marriage counselors that there are 2 marriages in every marriage, his and hers, and his is better. What that speaks to is that women tend to be better at accepting influence than men do. Women are, to use the language of this study, more curious, generally speaking, than men are. That we have a tendency as men to sort of say, well, this is what's true, and this is the way it is, and this is how we have to see things, and if you see it differently, then you're wrong. Where women have a tendency to be more curious and be more empathic. And when we can adopt that more empathic and curious attitude toward differences, we're willing to learn from our spouse in ways that we're not if we tend to be more rigid in the way we think about things.
Therefore, when we're looking at longevity of marriage, we're really looking at a capacity to and willingness to grow with each other, but so more curiosity, but having a fundamental worldview and framework that anchors the two, and that's the moral values part.
That's right. Yeah. So having that foundation of we see the world in similar ways. Interestingly enough, the study did reveal a difference between worldview and application. So when it came to actually how to apply their moral values in the world, in terms of ethics, these couples actually overestimated the degree to which they would decide similarly to each other. And so there were even some differences in terms of how to apply our moral values in the real world. But as long as those couples shared that basic worldview, they could communicate with each other and really understand each other and have enough respect for each other to be able to not just tolerate each other's differences, but be willing to learn from those differences.
And when we're talking about this concept of a moral worldview and a willingness to learn from each other's differences, what does that look like, especially within a sacramental context?
Well, I like to say, as you point out, okay, the marriage is a sacrament. And so what it's asking us to do as a sacrament is to heal certain parts of us that need to be healed. That's what all the sacraments do. They heal the damage that sin does to our ability to love God or others or ourselves the way God wants us to. And so I like to tell couples that I'm counseling that the reason that God put you with this person isn't just because he has a warped sense of humor, but it's because he wants you to learn from this person, because by learning to respond to this person's needs, you're going to grow in ways that you'd never grow if you didn't have this person in your life. And the ways that God is inviting you to grow through your spouse are ways that God needs you to grow to become the fully formed person that he created you to be. And so when we are willing to learn from each other, we both grow in intimacy, but we also grow in sort of our well-roundedness and our ability to experience virtue and to become healthier, more well-rounded people. So this curiosity allows for growth. It allows for actual intimacy and connection and empathy, all things that enable healthy relationships to thrive.
Let's talk about, by virtue of that, couples who are, they're in relationships right now. It's not like these are areas that you can't grow in, and there are certain acts of the will that you can make to take steps in that direction.
Sure. Yeah, and I think the most important thing is developing that curiosity. Another way I like to put it is respect. If I respect you, that's not just that I'm being nice to you. That means that I see you as a person who has a good head on your shoulders. And if there's something that you see that's true and good and beautiful, there must be something to it, even if I don't get that. And so because I respect you, I want to know what that is. I may not agree with you at the end of the day, but that's okay. I can at least appreciate what you appreciate about it. And the more we're able to do that, the more we're able to accept influence from each other. And so very often, for instance, where we have let's say if I'm counseling a couple that has different faith views, different religious backgrounds, the thing that enables those couples to survive or even thrive is the degree of curiosity that they have about each other's worldviews, because they might not necessarily believe the same way, but they love each other and respect each other enough to be willing to accept what they can and learn from each other and grow together. Whereas couples who are struggling because of that religious divide and become antagonistic because of that divide, it's not really about religion so much as it is about the failure of respect, that unwillingness to see what's good or true or beautiful about your religious views.
Well, Greg, I want to say thank you so much. Do you have a very quick exhortation to all of the couples right now as to one step they can take in the right direction?
Yeah, it's all about loving your spouse a little more than your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. When we have a tendency to say, this is where I'm comfortable and this is what how I'm comfortable loving you. And so when our spouse asks us to do something more than that, we tend to reject it. This study is really challenging us all to step outside that comfort zone for the sake of love, to express that curiosity so that we can build a more similar worldview and moral framework.
Thank you so much, Greg. As usual, a tremendous joy to reconnect with you. My guest has been Dr. Gregory Popcak. He and his bride, Lisa, the co-founders of CatholicHOM. They co-host More to Life each day, 10 Eastern on EWTN Radio. And they're the founders of the Catholic Households on Mission app. Please find out about it and see how your household can get on mission together. Stay tuned. I'm Marcus Peter.